My name is Amber Flores. I'm 38 years old. And 2 days ago, I walked out of prison after serving 9 months for assaulting my own sister. That sentence alone is enough for most people to stop listening. Assault, prison, family. Those words don't belong together in a story people want to hear. They belong in headlines, in judgments, in whispers. But if you're still here, I need you to understand one thing before anything else. I didn't go to prison because I lost control. I went because I refused to let anyone hurt my daughter and get away with it. 9 months ago, my life split cleanly into two halves, before Christmas and after. I used to work as a sales manager for a major paint company in Chicago. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, predictable, the kind of life people assume will stay quiet forever. I had been divorced for a few years by then. My ex-husband and I realized, slowly, painfully, that love alone wasn't enough to bridge our differences. But we did one thing right. We protected our daughter. Jenna was 13 that winter, smart, sensitive, observant in ways that scared me sometimes. She lived mostly with her father, and I had visitation whenever I wanted. We never fought over her. We never weaponized her emotions. Sometimes being a good parent means stepping aside when it's best for your child. Every holiday, though, Jenna came with me to my parents' house. Christmas was sacred in my family. Loud, crowded, familiar. The same house I grew up in. The same staircase I'd run up and down 1,000 times as a kid. And the same sister who had always been the center of my parents' world. Ashley, 5 years younger than me. Golden child. Protected. Defended. Excused. No matter what she did. We used to be close. Snow forts. Late-night secrets, shared bedrooms, and whispered dreams. But adulthood changed everything. Ashley wanted money. I wanted stability. When I refused to bankroll her reckless business ideas, something between us hardened. She never yelled, never accused me outright. She just smiled differently after that. Christmas Eve arrived cold and sharp, the kind of cold that turns your breath into smoke and makes the world feel brittle. At exactly 5:30 p.m., Jenna and I pulled up to my parents' house. Lights glowed warmly through the windows. Laughter spilled out when we opened the door. The smell of food wrapped around us like a lie that everything was fine. There were about 20 people there, relatives, neighbor, old family friends. And then there was Uncle Thomas, my father's older brother, retired lawyer, quiet observer, the only person in my family who never treated me like second place. He hugged Jenna first, then me. "I'm glad you're both here," he said, like he meant it. The night moved easily at first. Drinks, stories, Christmas music humming in the background. Until 8 p.m. The sound wasn't loud at first. Just a heavy thud, a sharp crack. Then silence. I turned my head and saw my daughter at the bottom of the stairs. Curled, still, terrified. Ashley stood halfway up, her hand gripping the railing. For just a second our eyes met, and what I saw there wasn't shock. It was satisfaction. People laughed nervously. Someone joked about kids being reckless. Ashley rushed down, performing concern. "I told her not to jump," she said sweetly. "Kids, right?" I ran to Jenna. Her ankle was swelling. Tears slid silently down her face. She grabbed my sleeve and whispered, barely audible, "Mom, she pushed me." The room tilted. The noise faded. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was war. I stood up slowly. My voice didn't shake when I asked, "Ashley, why did you push my daughter down the stairs?" And just like that, Christmas was over. The moment my words hit the air. "Ashley, why did you push my daughter down the stairs?" The room didn't explode. It froze, like every breath got trapped behind everyone's teeth. Ashley blinked once, slow and deliberate, like she was deciding what version of herself to wear next. Then her face rearranged into outrage, perfectly rehearsed, perfectly believable. "What the hell are you talking about?" she snapped, loud enough to make heads turn even in the kitchen. "She fell. That's it. Don't you dare accuse me of something like that." Behind her, her husband, Anthony, took a step closer. Protective stance, wide shoulders. That look men get when they think they're about to be heroes. I didn't even look at him. My eyes stayed on my daughter. Jenna was still on the floor, gripping her ankle with both hands like she was holding herself together. She wasn't crying loudly. That was what broke me. Because Jenna only stayed quiet when she was scared people wouldn't believe her. And I already knew. They wouldn't. Voices rose all around us. Somewhere across the room, Uncle Frank, wine glass in hand, let out a laugh, like this was a scene in a sitcom. "Kids, man," he said, "always doing something dumb." Mrs. Martha, the neighbor, shook her head like Jenna had simply embarrassed herself. I turned back to Ashley. She told me you pushed her, I said. My voice sounded calm, but it didn't feel calm inside me. It felt like something hot was crawling under my skin. Ashley threw her hands up. Of course she told you that, because you're always looking for reasons to make me the villain. Her eyes flicked toward my parents like she was collecting witnesses. Jenna probably jumped, or she ran too fast. Now you're going to pretend I attacked a child? The room started to murmur, and then my father, Gary, cleared his throat. That sound was small, but it carried authority. Everyone in this house had been trained to hear it as the final word. My mother, Brenda, stood and walked over like she was approaching a wounded animal. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Jenna, sweetheart, she said softly, tell Grandma exactly what happened. Jenna swallowed. Her hands trembled as she tried to sit up straighter. Her voice was small but clear. I went upstairs because the downstairs bathroom was taken. She pointed toward the hall like she needed the room to picture it with her. Aunt Ashley came out. After I finished, she was standing outside the door. Ashley scoffed loudly. Jenna flinched, just for a second, and I felt something in my chest twist, not anger, worse. Fear, because Jenna was learning, right in front of everyone, that adults could bully truth out of existence. Jenna continued, forcing her words out. I went down the stairs first. Aunt Ashley followed. When I was almost at the bottom, I felt hands. Jenna's eyes lifted and found mine like she needed strength. 2 hands pushing my back, hard, and I fell. Her voice cracked on the last word. My mother's expression shifted, barely, but I saw it. Not concern, suspicion, like Jenna had just recited lines she'd been coached to say. Ashley pounced instantly. That is such a lie, she snapped. Why would I do that? She tripped. Jenna has always been dramatic. And Amber, she emphasized my name like it tasted bitter, she's always poisoning people against me. My father nodded. He actually nodded. My mother didn't correct him. She didn't defend Jenna. Instead, she tilted her head with that thin patience mothers use when they think a child is being difficult. Jenna, she said, voice sugary, are you sure you're not confused? Sometimes when we fall, we feel like someone pushed us. It's an illusion. Your mind. That's not what happened, I cut in. My voice had sharpened without permission. Brenda's eyes flicked to me, warning. That look she'd used my whole life. The look that said, don't make a scene. Don't embarrass us. Don't challenge the story we've decided is true. I stepped closer to Jenna and crouched beside her. My daughter is honest, I said. I believe her. Jenna nodded quickly, like she was terrified her courage would fade if she didn't hold on to it. I know what I felt, she whispered. Then louder, stronger. Aunt Ashley pushed me. For a second, I thought maybe the room would shift. Maybe shame would creep into faces. But instead, the family did what it always did. They protected the favorite. My mother straightened, her cheeks flushing, not with concern for Jenna's injury, but embarrassment. Jenna, you're making too big a deal out of this, she said coldly. I stared at her. What did you just say? Brenda's voice hardened. It's a fall down the stairs, Amber. You spoil her too much. This is why she thinks she can say anything and everyone has to jump. The words hit me like a slap. Jenna's eyes widened, glossy with shock. And Ashley smiled. Not openly, not in a way anyone else would notice. But I saw it, a tiny curve of satisfaction, like this was exactly what she came for. Then she did something that made the air leave my lungs. Ashley reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Anthony glanced at her like, what are you doing? But didn't stop her. She tapped her screen, flipped the camera around, and aimed it straight at Jenna's face. Aw, Ashley cooed, voice dripping sarcasm. Everyone say hi. This is my niece. She fell down the stairs, and now she's accusing me of pushing her. I lunged up so fast my knees cracked. Ashley, I shouted, turn that off. She didn't. Instead, she tilted the camera closer, capturing Jenna's tears, Jenna's trembling mouth, Jenna's swollen ankle like it was content for strangers to consume. Look at her, Ashley said, performing pity. So dramatic, so coached. I ripped the phone out of her hands. The room erupted in gasps. Anthony moved towards me with his fists clenched. Give it back, he growled. I held it tight, thumb already finding the screen. I ended the live stream. My heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted out. You don't get to humiliate my child, I said, voice shaking now. Not from fear, from rage. Ashley's face twisted. How dare you? I didn't let her finish. I pulled out my own phone, hands trembling as I dialed 3 numbers I never thought I'd dial inside my parents' house. 911. And then my mother grabbed my wrist. Stop, she hissed, nails biting into my skin. Do you want the neighbors to hear? Do you want people to laugh at us? I stared at her, stunned. At us. Not Jenna. Not the fact her granddaughter was hurt. Not the fact Ashley was filming her crying. Just the optics. My father stepped in next. He didn't grab me gently. He snatched my phone right out of my hand and hit end call like he was swatting a fly. What the hell are you doing? I screamed. Gary looked at me with eyes I barely recognized. Flat, cold, certain. I don't want police here, he said. And besides, I believe Ashley. Jenna let out a sound. Small, broken. It was the noise a child makes when something inside them cracks. I stared at my father like I was seeing him for the first time. You believe her? I whispered. After Jenna is sitting there injured? My father's mouth tightened. If I were Ashley, he said evenly, I would have pushed her from 12 feet, not 5. Obviously, your kid just fell. The room went dead silent. My mother's hand flew to her chest like she couldn't believe he'd said it out loud. But no one corrected him. No one defended Jenna. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't standing in a room full of family. I was standing in a room full of people who would let my daughter bleed as long as it kept their favorite clean. Then, from across the room, Uncle Thomas stood up. He moved slowly, older body, steady mind. He raised his phone above his head like it weighed nothing. Ashley pushed Jenna, he said, voice calm but thunderous. I have proof. Ashley's face drained of color so fast it looked unreal. Anthony barked a laugh like it was impossible. What proof? He demanded. Uncle Thomas didn't argue. He simply tapped his screen, then looked around the room like he was disappointed in all of us. I live stream family gatherings, he said, for relatives who can't attend. The camera was recording the entire time. He sent the video to the family group chat. One by one, phones lit up. Heads dipped. And then the room changed. Because on that screen, there was no illusion, no confusion, no dramatic child. Just Jenna, walking carefully down the stairs. And Ashley right behind her, 2 hands, a shove, a fall. When the video ended, the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was terrifying. Ashley stood perfectly still, like if she didn't move, reality wouldn't touch her. My mother took a step backward, her mouth open, but no sound coming out. My father looked like someone had ripped the ground from beneath him. And I felt something inside me snap so cleanly it was almost quiet. I turned to Ashley. She met my eyes. And for the first time that night, she was scared. Amber, she whispered, voice trembling. What are you doing? I didn't answer. Because I didn't have words anymore. I only had one thought pounding through my skull like a drumbeat. You hurt my child, and you laughed while you did it. I took one step toward her, then another, and the entire room panicked, like they could finally see the storm coming. I didn't remember deciding to move. My body just did. 1 second, Ashley was frozen near the wall, eyes wide, breath shallow. The next, my hands were on her, fingers locking around the front of her sweater, my grip tight enough to steal the air from her lungs. Gasps exploded behind me. Amber! My mother screamed. Anthony surged forward, but Uncle Thomas stepped between us, arms outstretched. Don't, he warned him. Don't make this worse. Ashley clawed at my wrists, panic finally ripping through her composure. Amber, wait, please, she choked. I didn't choke her. Not yet. I dragged her towards the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the house itself was resisting what I was about to do. Her shoes scraped against the wood. Her nails raked my forearms, but I barely felt it. All I could see was Jenna's face at the bottom of those same stairs. The fear, the betrayal, the way the room had laughed. Mom, Jenna cried behind me, please. That sound, my daughter's voice breaking, should have stopped me. It almost did. For half a second, a voice inside me screamed that this was wrong, that I was crossing a line I couldn't uncross, that no matter how justified it felt, the law wouldn't care why. But then another memory surged up, sharper, louder. Ashley's phone inches from Jenna's face, my father saying he'd push her harder, my mother telling her she was exaggerating. I kept going. Step by step, I dragged Ashley up the staircase. She was screaming now, real screams. Not performative, not sarcastic, pure terror. Mom, Dad, help me, she shrieked. My parents rushed forward, their faces drained of color. Amber, stop, my father shouted, his voice cracking. This is insane. My mother sobbed openly now. Please, Amber, don't do this. Think about Jenna. Uncle Thomas followed us up a few steps, his voice urgent but steady. Amber, listen to me. The law will handle this. You're committing a crime. Anthony shoved past him, fury blazing. Let go of my wife, he roared. I swear I'll kill you. At the bottom of the stairs, Ashley's 7-year-old son, Leo, stood frozen. Then he started crying. Not loud at first, just a thin, broken sound, like something fragile snapping in half. Mommy, he sobbed. "Mommy, don't go. I'm scared." That should have been it. That should have ended everything. But my mind wasn't in the room anymore. It was trapped in a single moment. Jenna on the floor, everyone laughing. I stopped when we reached roughly the same height Ashley had stood when she pushed my daughter. Maybe 6 feet, maybe more. I wasn't measuring. I released her neck. Ashley spun around, gasping, eyes wild with hope. For a split second, she looked relieved, like she thought it was over. "Amber, please," she whispered. "We can talk about this." I didn't answer. I stepped back, and then I kicked her. Hard. All the rage I'd swallowed for years, the favoritism, the lies, the way my family had taught me I came second, poured into that single motion. Ashley didn't just fall. She flew. People screamed as her body hurtled downward, crashing into the chaos below. Several relatives instinctively reached out and caught part of her weight, breaking the fall just enough to keep her alive. She hit the floor with a sickening thud and stayed there moaning. Silence swallowed the house. Then everything erupted. Anthony dropped to his knees beside her, shouting her name, his hands shaking as he checked her back. Someone screamed for an ambulance. Others rushed to pull children out of the room. Jenna was crying openly now, pressed against Uncle Thomas, who wrapped his arms around her like a shield. My parents stood frozen, faces empty, like statues that had watched too much. And me? I felt calm, terrifyingly calm. I walked down the stairs slowly, stepping past the wreckage, past the broken Christmas ornaments and spilled drinks. I pulled out my phone, and I dialed 911. When the operator answered, my voice didn't tremble. "I need to report an assault," I said. I pushed my sister down the stairs. She needs medical help, and so does my daughter. Sirens arrived within 20 minutes. 2 police cars, 1 ambulance. The house that had once felt warm and familiar now looked like a crime scene. Ashley was loaded onto a stretcher, groaning. Anthony rode with her, shooting me a look filled with hatred so thick it felt physical. Jenna was examined on the couch. Scrapes, bruising, swelling, but no fractures. Thank God. The officers watched the video, all of it. They didn't yell. They didn't lecture. They just did their jobs. At the station, we were separated. Jenna was taken by Child Protective Services for evaluation. My parents were questioned. Uncle Thomas handed over his footage. I was led into a small interrogation room with a metal table and 2 chairs. A female detective entered, calm, professional. "I'm Detective Wilson," she said, turning on the recorder. "Tell me exactly what happened." So I did. Every word. I didn't justify it. I didn't minimize it. When I finished, she asked quietly, "Any prior history of violence?" "No," I said. "This was the first time." She shut off the recorder and studied me for a long moment. Then she leaned in just enough to lower her voice. "You protected your child," she said, "but the law doesn't bend for that." I nodded. I already knew. At the hospital later that night, I saw my ex-husband standing by Jenna's bed, holding her like she was glass. When he saw me, he didn't yell. He didn't blame me. He just said, "Thank you." And in that moment, whatever punishment waited for me didn't matter, because my daughter was safe, and I would pay any price for that. Prison doesn't look the way movies promise it will. There's no dramatic soundtrack, no single moment where everything clicks and you suddenly understand who you are. It's quieter than that. It's fluorescent lights that never fully turn off, metal doors that slam like punctuation marks, time that stretches until it feels like it might swallow you whole. I served my sentence in Cook County Jail, 9 months. The first night, I lay on a narrow mattress staring at the ceiling, replaying everything on a loop. The stairs, Jenna's voice, Ashley's fall, my father's words. I waited for regret to arrive. It didn't. What came instead was a heavy, aching certainty. If I could rewind time, I would change many things, but not that choice. My cellmate was a middle-aged woman doing time for a DUI. On the second day, she asked what I was in for. When I told her, she stared at me for a long second. Then she said, "Yeah, I would have done the same." That sentence followed me for months. Life inside settled into routine. Wake up, count, breakfast, work detail at the print shop, lunch, reading, more counting. Lights dimmed, but never dark. The hardest days were visiting days, because Jenna came every single week. She sat across from me in that sterile visiting room, growing taller while I stayed the same. Her hair got longer, her voice deeper. Changes I should have been there to see. She tried to be brave, but the first time she saw me in that orange jumpsuit, her lip trembled before she caught it. "I'm okay, Mom," she said quickly, like she was afraid I'd break. "I'm really okay." I told her the truth. So am I. Her father came with her most weeks. We didn't talk much at first, just shared space, shared concern, shared love for the same child. Over time, something softened between us. One day he asked quietly, "Do you regret it?" I looked him straight in the eye. "No." He nodded. "I didn't think you would." My parents never came. They sent one letter, long, apologetic, full of explanations that sounded more like self-defense than remorse. I read it once, then I put it away. Some wounds need distance before they can even begin to heal. Ashley was sentenced before I was released. 2 years in prison for intentionally harming a child, a restraining order from Jenna, a court review of her parental fitness once she got out. When I heard the verdict, I felt no triumph. Just balance. Justice isn't about winning. It's about truth standing where lies once lived. My own sentence came down shortly after. 9 months, $10,000 in restitution, a permanent mark on my record. I accepted it without argument, because the law did its job, and so did I. Release day came quietly. No ceremony, no speech. Just a guard opening a door and saying, "Flores, you're free." Outside, the air felt sharper, colder, real. Jenna ran into me so hard it knocked the breath from my lungs. She wrapped her arms around my waist like she was afraid I'd disappear again. Her father stood back, smiling softly. I breathed her in, shampoo, winter air, home. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my old boss. "I heard what happened," he said. "You still want your job?" I laughed. I cried. I said yes. Some people understand that character isn't defined by mistakes, but by why you make them. I visited Uncle Thomas that afternoon. He sat on his porch, older than I remembered, watching the world go by. "Do you regret it?" he asked me. I thought about it. Really thought. "I regret that it had to happen," I said. "I regret that Jenna had to learn how cruel adults can be. I regret that my family failed her." Then I met his eyes. "But I don't regret protecting my daughter." He nodded once. Didn't argue. Just accepted. My story ends here. I paid 9 months of my freedom for my child's safety. And if I had to choose again, I would choose her. Every time. Now let me ask you something. If you were me, what would you have done?